Whispers in the dark. In the quaint, unassuming town of Eldridge Hollow, autumn nights painted the landscape in hues of orange and shadow. The trees rustled under the weight of fallen leaves, creating a symphony of whispers that danced with the chilling wind. The residents of Eldridge Hollow took pride in their close-knit community, where everyone knew each other's names and secrets were rare. But deep within the forest surrounding the town, an ancient legend thrived, a tale that echoed through generations, warning against the darkness that lay beyond the comforting glow of their homes. The legend spoke of a lost soul, known only as the Wanderer, who roamed the woods at night. It was said that he had once been a resident of Eldridge Hollow, a man tormented by grief after losing his family in a tragic accident. Consumed by sorrow, he had ventured into the forest one fateful night, never to return. The townsfolk whispered that his spirit remained, trapped between worlds, seeking companionship and solace in the hearts of those who dared to wander too close to his domain. Despite the chilling tale, many of the town's youth dismissed it as mere folklore, a story meant to frighten children into staying indoors. Among these skeptics was a group of friends, Liam, Sarah, Mark, and Emily, who had grown tired of the same monotonous routines. One October evening, as Halloween approached, they made a pact to confront the legend of the Wanderer, to venture into the forest and prove once and for all that the tales were nothing more than fiction. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the town, the group gathered in Liam's backyard, armed with flashlights and bravado. "It'll be a great adventure," Liam exclaimed, his excitement palpable. The others exchanged nervous glances, but the thrill of rebellion propelled them forward. "Let's just make it quick," Sarah suggested, her voice trembling slightly. "We can go in for an hour and come back before anyone notices." The friends agreed, their collective courage bolstered by a shared sense of camaraderie. They set off down the worn path leading into the forest, the trees looming overhead like sentinels, their branches clawing at the darkening sky. The air grew thick with anticipation, and the familiar sounds of the town faded behind them, replaced by the unsettling silence of the woods. As they delved deeper into the forest, the atmosphere shifted. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow on the twisted roots and gnarled branches. Every snap of a twig beneath their feet echoed like a warning, but the group pressed on, fueled by adrenaline and the allure of the unknown. "Look, there's an old cabin up ahead," Mark pointed, his voice barely a whisper. The dilapidated structure stood forlornly among the trees, its windows dark and uninviting. "Let's check it out." With hesitant steps, they approached the cabin, its weathered exterior telling tales of abandonment. The door creaked ominously as they pushed it open, revealing a dust-laden interior filled with remnants of a long-forgotten life. Old furniture lay strewn about, covered in cobwebs, while a faded photograph hung crookedly on the wall. It depicted a family, their faces frozen in time, smiling blissfully against the backdrop of the very forest that now seemed to swallow them whole. "Creepy?" Emily remarked, her eyes scanning the room. "What do you think happened here?" "Probably just a family that moved away," Liam replied, trying to sound nonchalant. But even he couldn't shake the feeling of unease creeping in. As they explored, they stumbled upon an old journal, its pages yellowed and brittle. Mark opened it, and the friends crowded around, reading the scrawled entries of a man named Thomas, who had lived in the cabin years ago. The last entry sent a shiver down their spines. "I hear whispers in the night. They call to me, promising reunion. I fear I'm losing my mind. The Wanderer is real." A cold gust of wind swept through the cabin, causing the pages to flutter violently. "Okay, that's enough," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "We should go." Just as they turned to leave, a low whisper echoed through the air, sending chills racing down their spines. "Stay with me?" The voice was soft, almost melodic, but the chilling undertone sent a wave of dread crashing over them. "Did you hear that?" Emily gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "It's probably just the wind," Liam said, but his bravado had begun to falter. "No, it sounded like a voice," Mark insisted, his heart racing. Before they could discuss it further, the cabin door slammed shut behind them with a force that rattled the very bones of the building. Panic set in as they rushed to the door, but it wouldn't budge. "What the hell?" Liam shouted, pounding against the wooden frame. "Let us out!" Sarah cried, her voice rising in pitch as fear overtook her. Then, as suddenly as it had closed, the door swung open, and the friends stumbled out into the night, gasping for air. The forest around them was alive with a cacophony of whispers, each one growing louder, swirling around them like a tempest. The shadows seemed to dance and writhe, and they felt the weight of unseen eyes upon them. "Run!" Mark shouted, and they took off, tearing through the underbrush, branches clawing at their clothes and skin. But no matter how fast they ran, the whispers followed, taunting and teasing, pulling them deeper into the woods with their flashlights flickering. They fought to stay together, but the darkness consumed them. One moment, they were running side by side, and the next, Emily stumbled, her ankle twisting painfully. "Wait, I can't keep up," she cried. "Emily, we have to go," Liam shouted, but the others slowed, fear pooling in their stomachs. Just then, the air grew colder, and the whispers transformed into anguished wails, echoing through the trees. Shadows elongated, merging and separating like living entities. Mark and Sarah grabbed Emily, pulling her to her feet, but the forest seemed to shift around them, creating an unrecognizable maze. "Where are we?" Sarah gasped, looking around in panic. Liam turned, scanning the darkness. "We need to head back to the cabin. It has to be the way out." They retraced their steps, but the path felt foreign, each turn leading them deeper into the heart of the woods. The once familiar sounds of rustling leaves and distant animal calls were replaced by a profound silence that hung heavy in the air. The only sound was the frantic beating of their hearts and the low murmur of the whispers, which had now become an omnipresent entity, surrounding them, suffocating them. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught Liam's attention. "Over there," he pointed to a distant glow, barely visible through the trees. "That must be the cabin." They sprinted towards it, desperation fueling their movements. As they neared the light, the whispers intensified, growing into a cacophony of voices. "Stay with us, forever," they sang, a chilling harmony that echoed through the night. They burst through the door of the cabin, slamming it shut behind them. Breathing heavily, they leaned against it, hearts racing. "What the hell was that?" Emily panted, her eyes wide with terror. "I don't know," Mark replied, his voice shaking. "But we can't stay here. We need to find a way out." But as they turned to leave, they realized the door had vanished, replaced by a solid wall. The windows, once dark, now glowed with an eerie light, revealing faces pressed against the glass. Twisted, anguished faces that cried out in silent agony. "Help us, join us," they mouthed, and the group recoiled in horror. "No, we're not staying here," Liam shouted, pounding against the wall, but it wouldn't give. The room began to close in on them, shadows stretching and twisting, creating grotesque shapes that lunged and shrieked in the corners of their vision. Panic surged, and they huddled together, seeking solace in their friendship. "We need to find a way to break out," Sarah urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, gaunt man with hollow eyes and a mournful expression. "You shouldn't have come here," he warned, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Wanderer will take you." "What do you mean?" Mark demanded, backing away. "He seeks companionship," the man continued, his gaze filled with sorrow. "You'll be trapped here just like us. He will lure you in, and you will never leave." As if summoned by the man's words, the whispers crescendoed into a roar, the walls vibrating with a chilling resonance. The shadows thickened, coiling around the group, drawing them closer to the figure. "Run!" Liam yelled, and they charged toward the wall, desperate to escape. They crashed against it, but it held firm. "It's no use," Sarah cried, tears streaming down her face. The gaunt man extended his hand, beckoning them closer. "Join us," he pleaded, desperation etched in his features. "You don't have to fight. Embrace the darkness. and you will find peace." "No," Mark shouted, shaking his head violently. "We're not."